I'm Lemogang Kgopa.
And we're from Home of the Bean, a specialty coffee company. Why did I choose entrepreneurship? For me, I think growing up, I didn't really know what I wanted to be. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I felt that the opportunities that were available, or rather that I was exposed to, were limited. But I did know that I wanted to create something. I wanted something that would be mine, that I would be able to build with and for my family. And so I think that's where my journey began. From school, I used to sell sweets, and before the company, I used to sell costumes, and now we're here.
Yeah, for me, I grew up in a family. We used to have a tavern at home, but I never thought at this time I'll be in a coffee business or even in a business for that matter. But I knew that I want to do something that will fulfill me. And as time goes, I realized that going into business give me that freedom of creating and be in control of where I want to go in terms of the journey. It started as a passion. So we used to visit different coffee shops, and we sort of started to like the environment of the coffee shop. One of our friends, he sort of realized that we into coffee, and he introduced us to one of their friends called Dan. He used to run the coffee shop called Firebed. I started to volunteer just to get a knowledge behind the counter, what's happening.
And you started with washing the dishes?
Yeah, I started washing the dishes because I think that was the easier way of getting behind the counter, because he was always busy on weekends, so he couldn't get a chance to do the dishes. So I'll come in on Saturday or Sunday and do the dishes until I learned how to make my first cup.
We did some research on what it would cost us to open a coffee shop. It really was a lot. So we looked at what we had, and that was, we still had our 9-to-5 jobs, so we had our salary, and we had investments and personal investments and savings. The third thing that we had was we opened a credit card for the business.
Yeah, we took the credit cards for business.
Yeah. So from there, we thought of going mobile instead of actually having a standalone shop. We searched for a VW Kumbi.
It's a very old one.
Yeah, an old one. We revamped it with the money that we had. Whatever was short, we would patch with our 9-to-5 jobs, and that's how we funded our journey.
After that, we had to try to get on the market or introduce our business to the market. So that was one of the challenges that we went for a couple of months trying to get into the market. We started doing the wedding. From the wedding, then we grew to do one of the market was the brown sands. Then from brown sands, then we did the low grade. Then I think from there, that's where the business started to grow. Then even people started to notice us, making inquiries about whatever special events they will have. The other challenge during COVID was finance on trying to keep the business alive. We had to try to keep or to pay our staff even during that hard lockdown, because we know that without them, there's no business.
So we started mobile, and then we went into a mini kiosk. So now that's when the business was sort of growing. Now we had to employ someone. And then from the kiosk, we went to
having the
small coffee shop. It was very small. It attracted a lot of people. It was in a very beautiful space. It was also very easy to manage. And then now we had to move from a small space to a very big space, which was a risk, number one. Especially during COVID times, it was very challenging. So it was either we stay there and not grow, or we just go big, because we tried looking for spaces, and people were closing down businesses, and it was tough.
Yeah, and landlords then, I don't know, somehow they were not willing to negotiate, even during that time of lockdown, knowing that the businesses are closing.
Suffering,
So that was a challenge, and either we're gonna close at some point if we stayed in an old location, or we had to move and take a risk opening a bigger coffee shop that's sort of moving us from being a coffee shop, small coffee shop, towards restaurant.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah.
opening up the kitchen and introducing more things. It was basically like starting from scratch. And so from that, we had to basically be innovative. We had to adapt to the changes. We had to work with what we had. It wasn't easy, but I don't even know how we're still here.
I think that was still passion burning inside to say either we close or we go big. And by that time, we had sort of loyal customers in the area that were sort of becoming family members. Like whenever you think of that guy that comes and work in your space and you think like, damn, if we close our hardworking investment that we did in 2017, truth is we haven't recovered the money even today. Yeah. So we had to think to say, let's just take this leap of faith and push harder. The tools or advice that I'll give one when they're starting with their partners is that firstly you have to understand the weaknesses and the strength of this partner that can be your wife, can be your family member, but we have to understand the strength and the weakness of each other. Then we can help each other on that.
Yeah, and I think once you have the roles, setting boundaries is important as well, because we think that, oh, he's my husband. It's easier to just say anything and leave respect at the door, which I mean, it's a problem. So it helps us, when you establish boundaries, we help each other not overstep those. And support is also very important. Business has its ups and downs. Even not just as us working, but even the way that we communicate with the staff. If you give them the support, you encourage them, you push them basically to be able to express themselves freely, I think it enables the business to work successfully.
And adding on the honesty as well, because like our business is based on money and we have physical money coming in. So imagine not trusting your sister or your wife with the cash flow that can come in and be like, oh, today we make 50 rand. Meanwhile, we did 100 rand because they're pocketing another money. So we need that trust. And I think once we establish that, then the rest will start unfolding and sort of making things easier for you guys to work together. In terms of the partnership, it's very difficult to know the difference between the business and the baby's crying. We can have those differences when it comes to business, but when we get home, we need to try to switch. Can be difficult, but you need to try to switch to not take the business home, because that's where you also gonna damage your marriage.
So what does winning look like for us? I believe in our industry, winning is being able to source everything in-house. So if we're able to form a relationship with the farmers, get our green beans from them, get them transported here. If we're able to roasting is the biggest thing that we want to go into, and baking as well. So we want to basically just make everything in-house, keep the money in the family. And that's easier because it creates opportunities for being able to hire people, pay better salaries. People need to earn what they deserve. And yeah. And
keep the business alive. Getting into the new spaces, I think, will be bonus. We're hoping or praying that we can grow towards that. But the main winning part for us will be owning roastery and be able to bake all in-house.
The top things I would like to pass on to fellow entrepreneurs is intention and really putting yourself out there. I think it attracts opportunities. When people are starting something, they know that Leroy is doing this, so I know I can rely on him and I can have them on this project. The passion, because you're not going to make money all the time. So it needs to be something that's going to keep pushing you through the hard times.
I think another important thing is that we need to be able to work on our products as well, especially as a small business, because I think in order for us to be out there and to attract the markets that we desire to work with, we need to work on our products. Make sure that your product is on A grade, your service is on A grade. You will have those downfalls, but
All the time.
let it be countable, and let's make sure that each and every customer that come across you can tell something positive, more positive than lesser negative, if they have a negative things to say. But work on your product, make your product to be the A grade. You don't need to compete, but if you compete with yourself, you'll come out to be much more greater, because you're bettering yourself every time. You're not looking on next door. It's good that you look at next door what they're doing, but you shouldn't compete, because that will derail you from where you want to be. Our coffee shop is going somewhere, someone's coffee shop is going somewhere. The moment we start focusing on their journey, we'll be derailing from where we want to be. So try to work on yourself, work on your product, work with other entrepreneurs. Personally, I visit a lot of coffee shops because I want to learn from them. I don't want to compete with them, but I want to learn from them. So if they're doing something better, I'll go and ask for advice. So the same way as we started, that's the same attitude that I think someone can take home to say, work on yourself, work on your product, work on where you want to be, and keep your vision and the picture be to say, this is where I want to be, this is where I want to see Home of the Bean in the next 10 years.